I am Jeff Jackson.
Hello, I'm Laura Pasquini.
Good morning. I'm Bruce Mann.
And we are all three back together again.
Woohoo!
Yay.
Which hasn't been since sometime in June, I
Yeah,
think.
This is true.
it has been a while.
Summer is always, people think we have summers off in higher ed because teachers have summers off, but that's
No.
not true at all.
No. Speaking of summer, have y'all been watching the Summer Olympics?
On and off. You?
Religiously?
Have you really?
Yes, I have. And because I was in Canada last week, I got to watch two different versions of broadcasting. It was amazing because I was
Hey.
upset with NBC, so I got to watch CBC and Global and CTV. It was great.
Yeah, everyone's been killing NBC on their broadcasts. I did not watch much of the first week at all. I try to watch a lot of track and field, but I mean I watch some Olympics, but small percentage compared to the rest of the world. I saw a few things I wanted to see in track and field, but that was about it.
Yeah, I watched a decent amount, and lovely technology. I understand why NBC time delay is kind of the big stuff. I have some issues with what they cut out. I have not yet seen the closing ceremonies, but there are a couple of people online that had compared what they cut out to what they actually showed. And then bumping out of the Who at the end, I guess, was a big deal. But I have a Roku box on my TV, and there are private channels. And with that, I was able to get BBC. And so I watched their feed a lot, which was better. And I could watch it in decent time period and kind of pick. So I understand why NBC does it, so I don't get too upset about it. But the choices that they make, but that much is not gonna change, to be honest. They had huge ratings, made a ton of money, made their money back on this part. So we're just gonna have to live with it a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, well, the NBC fail, epic fail hashtag was the big one. I just thought it was interesting because this is the first Olympics they've had to think more around social media for players, for athletes, for the village, for TV. So they had like the twitter.com, and they had /hashtag Olympics, which didn't make sense, but they were trying to involve the social web, and they were streaming as much as they could. So you had every station out there wanting you to log on if you want to stream live at home. It's been the first the Olympics where you've seen more athletes walking with their smartphones, taking videos, and I think the Summy cards that has the, hey athletes, they're taking video of you taking video. You could put your smartphone away. It was one of my favorites because they're all walking in. The Russians had the tablets yesterday, the closing ceremonies. It was pretty funny to see like tablets and smartphones and cameras up because that's probably the most I've ever seen any athlete walking in or for closing or opening ceremonies. But no, I enjoyed it. It's definitely different and something that the Olympic Committee's never had to think of before.
Yeah, and you've seen cameras before, but it's usually point and shoots, and then even before that, film. You definitely they seem more excited to be there than I think people watching, to be honest. It's an interesting time with the way technology played out and getting some athletes suspended and kicked off teams for inappropriate tweets. You had some memes pop up. A famous one about the American gymnast who was not impressed, which my favorite memes, I'm not a big meme fan, but when they become self-aware and come back on each other, she had posted a photo 2 days ago that they were looking to swim. They were done with their competition, and it posted a photo of her and two other U.S. gymnasts, like with the scowl on their face that said, "Pool is closed, hashtag not impressed." So I like people with a sense of humor on that. But it's a fascinating time right now, and we'll see where we go from here with the Winter Olympics and how NBC handles that.
Absolutely, and so that was our intro. Today's topic, though, and I think Jeff we mentioned this in the last Cast, as we were hanging out last time with Bruce, he wanted to talk around privacy concerns, being hacked. So what does it mean for security concerns for yourself individually or on campus within your campus community? And so we have different ideas that we're going to share with you today. But if you're listening live and you're on Twitter, we're at the hashtag CTCX. You can't phone in anymore, I don't think, Jeff, can you?
No, but you can't, not that I'm aware of. I don't know if this Google Plus thing has phones, but you could Google Plus in if you want to. If you want to send me a message on Google Plus, you can find me on Google Plus at jeffjackson.co, and we can add you into the show here.
But otherwise, we're following the back channel if there is anyone on, and obviously recording this later on a YouTube video. But I'll let Jeff start us off, because he's the one who thought we should probably talk about security and what does it mean to get hacked.
Yeah, so there was a really big story that started last week by this guy named Matt Honan. I don't know if y'all have heard of this or not. Are y'all familiar with the story?
Yep.
And so this is a different kind of hack. This is what they would call a social engineering hack. And so he was a writer for Gizmodo, I believe it was, and now he's a technology writer somewhere else. And without going into too much detail of everything that happened, he basically discovered that all of his Apple systems that he had, his iPhone, his MacBook Pro, etc., have been wiped clean. The more he started to investigate this, he discovered that his MobileMe account was hacked. And basically what they were trying to do, they wanted to get to his Twitter account. He had the Twitter account, Matt, M-A-T, and that's what they wanted to control. And then they engineered this way around it. So they would call Amazon to get certain information using their customer service support, do the same thing, get some information there, and then they went over to MobileMe to get information there. They had similar email addresses, and so was able to get in and get control of his Twitter account. In the process, wiped all of his systems clean, may have lost all the photos from his 1-year-old daughter's first year of life, which is horrible to think about. Knowing how many photos that we've taken of my son in his first 2 years, to think like all those memories could be gone there. And the one thing that really Matt didn't do well is he didn't back up his data, either offline or online somewhere else, and so he could have lost a lot of that data. So we want to talk a little bit about just. We don't want to get too much into social engineering hacks because they're trying to close the loops on those, but just about ways to keep yourself from being vulnerable in that anyway. I think a lot of times we sign up for services and we kind of forget we sign up for them and what they do. There's a couple of things I want to show really fast. Let me see if I can make an effort to show my screen here.
And as you're doing that, Jeff, it's funny. We should talk and share some ideas. Just personally, and there's some links we'll share, but if you have any, definitely tweet them out with CTCX hashtag, and we'll definitely collect them, because I think more people need to be aware of this issue and probably haven't really thought about some accounts they've signed up for and maybe just have floating out there and not being used.
Yeah, exactly. I've said multiple times, I'm trying to close down old accounts for this reason. If there are things that I signed up for, because I always wanted to sign up for things when they first came out, so I can get the username Jeff Jackson.
Right.
And I would determine later if I use it. So I had Foursquare for a long time before I ever actually used Foursquare. But I thought I could potentially use it someday. That's why I kept it. So there's a couple of things I want to show. If this is going to show now, I think it is. So this is my Twitter apps. So if you go into, it may not even be aware that you have these. If you go into Twitter under settings and you go under apps, these are applications that you've given Twitter allowed to access. And when I came on here, there were about 20 that I either didn't remember sign up for, or I signed up for a services a long time ago that I no longer use. And so there's still a gateway in from this service into my Twitter account. And so there's potential if I got hacked in one of those areas, I could get hacked somewhere else. So I don't think I need Blog Talk Radio, so I'm going to go in and revoke access to that. I had a lot of old Twitter clients that I had been using that I needed to go in and clean up, and I still had those accesses given in there. Same thing over here, and this is actually worse over here on Facebook. So I don't use Facebook on TweetDeck, so I can remove access for that. I don't use Facebook at all anymore, so I can remove access for that. So really do some due diligence, go into these things that you use, and start kind of cleaning up your digital footprint. And if you're not still using certain things with these networks, disconnect them. Don't leave them lingering out there to be hacked into.
Jeff, can you show them where you went on Facebook? Because I don't know if people actually know to go places.
So under Facebook, you're going to go to account settings. And under account settings, it will take you here. And then over here is Facebook apps. And that's how you get to this on Facebook. So there's more in here that I need to actually go in and clean up. And you'll see things like Talkie that I don't even know when I use that. So
like anytime you've played a game or you've signed up for like Analyze My Network to make something like let me connect to this directly. Yeah.
Right. And so I would recommend go in and clean up as much of this as you want. Now another place you need to do is Dropbox. If you use Dropbox a lot, you need to go in and you have to get permission for every computer, every device you ever use Dropbox on. So I realized recently I still had permission of a computer that I hadn't used in over 1.5 years from a previous employer. And so you need to go into Dropbox also and see where you've given that permission, different devices, different computers, and kind of close those paths off also.
What about yourself, Bruce? What
big companies that have been hacked, and people get emails saying, hey, your stuff, if you were using those passwords for anything else, which I can look and see, but there's numbers out there that a lot of people use a universal password, you're going to be hosed if you do have that happen. So I use modifications that aren't really intuitive to figure out and have a password keeper that everything is safe. So that's one big one for me. Another one is I don't use unrestricted or unprotected wireless networks. That's something that doesn't get talked a lot about, but it is extremely easy, even on some protected networks, to grab information that's going out in the true cloud that's going out through the air, especially around college campuses. I've read some great stuff online about how people can easily grab those packets out of the air and then put them back together and see, here's all your Facebook login and everything else. And beyond that, on kind of the protection end, I back everything up twice and make 2 copies and keep one on site in my apartment and one off site. And the reason I do that is if there were to be a fire, everything's gone. So there's no way, and I'm not there believing the issues that have happened with the cloud. I mean, look at the example, Jeff, you gave of a tech journalist and a tech expert losing everything, and part of that was in the cloud. So I have a redundancy drive that I actually take off, put in a safe deposit box. Some people might think it's overkill, but with the photo business I have and stuff that I want to keep and family photos and everything else, like, it would be devastating to lose all of that.
How often do you do that?
I try to do it once a month, but it works out at probably once every 3. More often in the summer for obvious reasons, but if I can do it a couple times a semester and remember, I'm fine.
Do you have a cloud backup service too, right?
I do.
How often is that automatic?
It is.
Okay.
So I'm really in 3 places I'm backing up. So cloud, and then I have a redundant RAID drive that one stays there, and then just gets switched out. So I always have one backup, and it's even if it's 3 months lost, that's better than 20 years of stuff.
Yeah, and there's ways to just use and sync through Dropbox. Also, you can back up to there. I think even Google Drive now, they offer a certain amount of space. You can do some backups to Google Drive. And then there are services, like Mozy and I can't think of anything else.
There's a decent amount. Yeah.
And you're right. Like I'm reading a book. Here's my visual of the day. I'm reading the book Brain Gain by Mark Prensky, who coined the term digital native, digital immigrants. Full disclosure, it was sent to me from the publisher. But I will, I'm doing a book review for them, and one of the chapters, it talks about, because people always talk about, tech is so bad and we're going to get hacked and we shouldn't use it. That's not the point. He talks about, digital cleverness that is dangerous and digital stupidity. And he said himself, he's been in tech and gaming and all gaming in the technology world for a long time. He said that we just do things that are digitally stupid, that are benign and unforgivable. And even David Pogue who writes for New York and blogs for them on tech, that these are some of the things he does. Forgetting to back up, hitting the send button, hitting the reply all, hitting the wrong button. And he talks about, one of them was just forgetting that you have access to things, and forgetting, like you said, you have accounts in different places, because those are probably accounts that are going to get hacked or someone else is going to log in. So we're hoping to give some tips today, and I just asked the question on Twitter, what are some other tips to avoid getting hacked? Because we're going to be online. You're going to have online accounts. And it's not just social media. You have bank accounts. You have your online login at work. You have a portal if you're a student. You have your health and digital, more of a digital health profile online. So sure, we're talking about LinkedIn had the big hack and Dropbox did, but there's other spaces that you need to think about that I think is really useful. And I think that's just part of my story time read, but I'll blog about it. And I'll share that after the podcast.
I will give a easy top tip that people probably listening to this know, but I constantly have to explain to students. If there is a link, don't click on it unless you know who it's from and it sounds somewhat reasonable. I've seen a student and knew of a staff member. The staff member had called me in a while ago at another job that said, "I'm in trouble. I got this email on Facebook that said there's a bad picture of me out there, and they've deleted it, but I need to click this link to see it. So what do you think?" I'm like, "Don't click that." Of course he clicked it, and he got a virus. And these are the things that people use. Some are just viruses. Some will put in spyware and malware to take over your computer to do things. If you don't know, don't click it. If there are a million misspelled words, don't assume that it's legit. If there's a Nigerian prince that wants help, you don't need to help him.
That poor Nigerian prince, he's been looking for help for 10 years.
And the problem is, that stuff works.
Yeah. Well, and there are other things, and there's a Lifehacker article which we'll put. There's actually some great tips on Lifehacker overall, and I'll probably link 3 or 4 things in the show notes. But one that is very, very good is whenever they ask for birthdays, mother's maiden names, you don't have to use your real birthday. You don't have to use your actual mother's maiden name. If they ask you what high school you graduated from, you don't have to use your actual high school. These are. Now, you may want to be consistent or use something that you're going to remember, so you don't make it up. But there's so much information about us out there now that they could probably figure out my mom's maiden name pretty easy if they were the ones, or not me, but more famous people. There's the one guy that just in Florida. that had all of these. It was getting all these images of stars and Hollywood stars, primarily female. And what he did was he assumed what their login would be, their email would be for Gmail and other services, and then he would go through the password recovery to get a password sent to them, because all of their information is online, from what high school they went to, their mom's maiden name, where they were born, all that information, and he had all their email redirect to his email address. So he was getting all of these stars' email addresses, and so he was just guessing, and it worked out. And so you don't have to use your actual information.
And it's good with passwords, and I showed the links that Jeff was just talking about, for you to change it every few months. So our system on campus is smart, and it prompts me to change it every 3 months, I think.
Same here, every 90 days.
Every 90 days, and it's good, and it's also bad because it doesn't take any word that's an actual language, and I've tried some other foreign languages, and it won't pull passwords that are representative. You have to have a character, a number, have a cap letter in there somewhere, but you need to think about doing the same thing for yours. And Jeff, you said it right, like leaving traces of us. We are going to be in spaces, and I'm probably the most searchable for different reasons. People could assume an identity of me, but there are some things that I do kind of switch up to, so that's not all out there. So it's something we think about, like even as we have geo check-ins, and I do use Foursquare and I do check in, but I am also aware when I check in, someone's still at home at my house in Texas when I'm in Canada, or someone is, or I'm just leaving a place after I check in versus before I check in. I tweeted the 2 links that you said about the passwords, and I know there was a good one actually that came out from NPR. They did 5 ways to avoid being hacked, and it gives that idea. Do you guys want to talk about 2-factor authentication? Thank you, authentication. If you want to talk a little bit about what you recommend for that for users.
Sadly, I haven't turned it on yet.
What?
I know. I will now, though.
I haven't either. And it's really, and this is where, like, this is where it gets you. It's like, it's a pain. Like, I've had it on, had it off, like, yeah.
I use it because I use it in my bank account, and I use it in my insurance payment account. And I know it's really easy because we love our browsers, because you can link in Chrome with every password you have and just be ready to fire up and go. But guys, come on, do it for the people. Do it for you.
Well, I plan to. The more I heard Matt Honen's story, I listened to a podcast called 5x5 last week, and they broke down Matt Honen's story and every step it took. And I texted my wife automatically. I'm like, we're going to start making sure everything's backed up. Because between our actual camera and both phones and our flip camera, like we have, every day of my son's life, there has to be like 10 photos taken of him probably. I feel like there's so many images that we have, and we have to make sure that's protected and backed up offline and online, and offline in our external hard drive, and online somewhere in case something happens, our drive is stolen, or like Bruce said, if a fire happens. But we just have to be smarter about what we're using for passwords. Are we using the same password every place? Because you shouldn't do that, like Bruce said earlier. Are we using the same email address for every place? We probably shouldn't do that either. And so we're finally putting more. We always had pretty good security in passwords, but I want to be smarter about it. Fortunately, when my LinkedIn account got hacked, I was using a different password for LinkedIn than other places, and so that didn't really hurt me that much when that happened. But I want to try to be preventative for that in the future.
Final thoughts from me. I'm off to a training, but I would really say take time to find out where you're at and what your presence is. I think we've said it, like we're leaving digital footprints and fingerprints all over the place. take a look. The more and more that people try to monetize the internet, the more that they're going to take advantage of that, which means that people with nefarious intentions will also take advantage of that. So I will pledge to do two-step authentication, and we'll change your passwords a lot. So talk to y'all later.
Bye, Bruce. We'll see you later.
See you, Bruce.
Bye.
And if you don't know what the two-factor authentication is, I'll tweet it out, and we'll definitely curate all the resources we're saying today in the show notes. They'll give you an idea of what it means on your mobile, to maybe your computer, maybe you're using a certain browser that has passwords. Definitely something you should check out. And the other fact that we have so much online, and Jeff, I think we've talked about this before, and there's a good podcast on your afterlife, your digital afterlife. Like what happens to those accounts, because some actually get passed over to family and some don't when you sign up. So I'll find that link and share that. But can you tell me about the podcast you were listening to? You said it was 555?
I'll look up the exact name of it. It's Gino Trapani is one of the hosts, and it's called some of the 5x5 network.
Oh, 5x5.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought you said 555.
And let me check. It's in my Google Reader.
Okay, that's good.
I'll look that up.
As you queue that up,
it's called In Beta.
Okay.
It's on the 5x5 network.
You want to tweet that out for the group?
Yes.
There's like simple 5 things that NPR talked about, and they said tough passwords, which we've talked about, 2-part authentication, change your behavior was a good one. So it was share a little less. And I wonder if that's possible for people to do now. But that's going to change behaviors of yourself, your colleagues, your students. So I don't know if a lot of you do stuff around branding and digital ID management. But when it comes to bigger things, I know that our student money management group talks about finances and being aware of protecting passwords and knowing accounts and scholarships and things like that. Consolidation, step 4, and back it up. So we talked about backing up, but consolidation is when's the last time you actually sat down and logged onto your MySpace, if you still have that. Why do you still have that? So think about the services you've signed up for in the last 10 years, 5 years, even last year. Do you need it? I think that's, and Jeff, you did get rid of one of your LinkedIn, I think, right?
I got rid of a lot. I had Get Glue. I don't know why I ever had that.
I never had that.
Yeah. I still had a MySpace account. I never had a MySpace page, but I had an account. Because to send messages to someone, you needed to have an account for that. I got rid of LinkedIn. I've gotten rid of Dig. I've gotten rid of a few more. And actually right now, I'm actually looking to try to get rid of my My Ride account, which I created, I don't know, 4 years ago, maybe, and I thought about it recently.
Yeah, and like, do you need 7 like virtual check-in spaces? Like, if you do geo check-in or geotagging, do you need a Gowalla, Foursquare, Facebook Place? Like, there's so many of them. Do you need all of them? Yeah. That's the question. Yeah.
You know, so I used Twitter less. I mean, I was gone for class for 2 weeks and didn't use Twitter at all. I just didn't have time for it. It didn't fit into my schedule then, and I haven't fully like embraced coming back into it. And I've seriously thought of taking like a there's deactivate my account. Yes. Okay, finally found it. It's hard to find deactivate your account sometimes.
Right.
But I'm thinking about trying to take it like a 30-day break from Twitter and seeing how I feel about it, and like see what happens. I don't think I want to like forget it altogether, but there are certain things I think that it's just kind of crowding my life. Like I don't want everything to be online. I don't want to have the pressure to put everything online. So I'm thinking about just dropping things.
Like everything?
Not everything. I mean, I can't drop everything. I'm in school. I mean, I have to do a lot of researching online. A lot of family and other things through Facebook groups I still communicate with a lot. As much as I'm annoyed by Facebook, it is still by far the biggest thing that I use probably as far as social networking, because my family uses it. I have some really active Facebook groups there that I will check on, at least once a day. And then for work, we use it quite often. It has a very good community for work on there.
Well, you would use it for Break Drink, though. So, no?
Twitter?
Well, we use it, yeah, and Facebook and
I would, for doing Break Drink stuff and for doing even work stuff, I would still use it for that, but just not the logging in 10 times a day to see what's happening. I haven't really been active on there for over a month, and I don't feel I've lost anything really. So I kind of just want to take a step back. I don't need to be everywhere. And I think as long as I still have some online communities, I still have some connection, I'm fine. I just don't feel I need to be everywhere all the time. I don't want to completely ditch it either, because it has been a really good community to be a part of in a lot of ways. But it's just so noisy now. I've had a really hard time keeping up with Twitter anyway. So
I shared a couple links. There was 30 Go 30. So it's 30 days, 30 minutes, go change your life. And one of them was giving up social media last year. Someone else recently just gave up and came back, and he just said he had more time to do things. I think it's being aware of when and how you spend your time. So I won't give it up, but I am conscious of I want to have a family meal. I want to be out with friends and be with them, and being present has been a bigger focus. So I've done that pretty well. Like, I'll be off and on. I don't know if I could go without entirely, and it's not an addiction thing, more of a where I source some resources and information and research. And I get, like, it's funny because I kind of did those webcasts last week. I don't, Jeff knows. I did the Advised Tech Commission from NACADA. Did a free series of advising technology some sessions, and we put them on YouTube, and we have show notes. And Jeff, you want to tweet that out. I had to be around, though, because people, like, wanted to talk to me about them afterwards. And I know that when we're doing productions like this and we're putting podcasts and other things out there, people wanted to ask you questions and follow up. So I couldn't not be there, but I said, like, after like 2 p.m. EST or 2:30, I kind of got off and did outdoor activities. And I just said, hey, I'll get you next week, or you don't always have to be immediate. I think that's my new philosophy. Like, you could let things sit for a little bit longer, because I think we all strive to get things immediate, inbox zero, and all that stuff, but I think it's stupid. You need to have time for you.
I have for a while disconnected on the weekends from Twitter, and I feel good. Like, I don't feel like I've missed anything. I don't feel it's been nice to not have my device in my hand all the time, or not constantly seeing what's happening, and being able to see and just, spending time with my family, or spending my time more valuable that way.
And maybe sharing less is better. Like, and that's where it comes to pick and choose how and when you share. A suggestion from Christopher Konzen said that when he's in public Wi-Fi, he's often decide to go get a VPN, because he's in public a lot on Wi-Fi, and he wanted to use his virtual private network instead. So that's his security tip I've gotten from Twitter. I think we need to think about where we are, and it was morbid, but I've shared what to do in your afterlife, or how to plan ahead for your digital demise, because I've thought of it. Not that I'm planning to die anytime soon, Jeff, don't worry. But I've thought of it because I have photos and blog posts and places I am that I just can't give my Flickr account to my husband Faircare, because he'd have to have my exact login. They won't Flickr won't transfer it over.
Yeah.
So.
I'm using If This Then That which is ifttt.com, I believe, something like that. Where all my images, if I take a image and upload it to Facebook, or if I upload it to anything else, it gets uploaded to Dropbox automatically, and so then I can share that file with my wife, and then she'll always have access to those kind of things also. But she has most of my passwords anyway, so that shouldn't be an issue of at least finding them.
Yeah, I use that too, and I use it for tweets as well. I actually direct link my tweets to Delicious, but what if that changes again? I have a Dropbox full of links and resources I've shared, because yes, I like to share with you, but I also share for my own purposes and kind of archive things that way. So If does that as well.
Yeah.
Guess we should share that link.
Let's move on to some news.
Yeah. News.
Okay, did you watch the Mars rover landing?
Not live. I went to bed.
I wanted to. I was just so tired that night.
But I know many who did.
There were more people who watched it on Ustream. I heard this yesterday. More people watched it on Ustream than watched it on CNN. So that's a pretty amazing number.
Do you know what the number was? No.
2 million something, over 2 million.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. So it was pretty. I mean, for Central Time, it was pretty late. I guess if you're on the West Coast, it wouldn't have been quite as late. But the Mars rover is now starting to put out some images, and it's been confirmed that Mars looks just like Arizona.
Are they sure it wasn't Arizona? Or?
I know. They could be staging this whole thing. Because the University of Arizona is really big into this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
The images, I mean, think about what we sent something for it took like 8 months to get there, right?
Yes.
We sent a car 8 months through the air. They landed on Mars, and now it's getting these high quality images. That's amazing. I mean, I hope this brings like a resurgence in the love of science or interest in science, because we haven't had that thing to get really excited about. Space. I remember as a small child when the first shuttle, went off, and now they're all have been retired, and their space program is very different. But I really hope this kind of brings that resurgence back.
And when Jeff says first shuttle, he does not mean the very first one.
No, not the capsule, but the actual Columbia or Challenger, the shuttles.
As not to age him so much.
Yes.
You're looking good for your age, then, if that was the case. Let's see, what else has been happening?
Well, I mentioned this the last show, and then I went and found the article on my favorite website of Mashable. And there is reports. Could you get sarcasm in there? Because I was trying to.
I got it. Dripping sarcasm.
There are reports that Twitter is trying to somehow stream a reality TV type show, maybe with MTV or something like that, via Twitter. Like the show would somehow be in Twitter.
Oh, maybe we can audition.
Twitter is philosophically has changed a lot, and they're closing down their platform more. The things that the hose they had open for people to take from API, and developers, they're closing down more. So some people who had their company built on the Twitter API is losing their company, and so they're trying to. I don't know what's going on now, because if you see, maybe they got tired of seeing their hashtag at the bottom right corner of every television show, and they realize they're not getting any money from that, and so I don't know exactly what their plan is with this.
Yeah, and you're right, because they had more third-party apps out there that Twitter's just like, oh, well, we can create. That's when the Discover the hashtag came up, or they're like, let's optimize on us with search instead of having other companies are like, we're no longer in service. So I wonder how many cease and desist letters Twitter sent out to say, no, we're going to do this now. Forget you guys.
I don't know. It's been, it's it's interesting to see what they're going to do. You know, they still don't have a rock solid funding model. I mean, they are getting some through those promoted tweets, which I think, as we get closer to election time, is going to make Twitter unbearable to use.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, we'll see what happens there.
I'm sure there's other news we missed, but I think that's probably it for today.
Hey, did you sign up for Outlook Mail?
What do you mean Outlook Mail?
Microsoft has changed their online mail. Hotmail's dying; it's gone away, and they're starting Outlook Mail.
No. Oh, this is the Outlook.com, the new. I'll share a link for that. I didn't. Yeah. I saw it when I was away, but I did not sign up for it. Have you signed up for it?
No, I'm not going to. I mean, part of me has the curiosity of always trying new things, or at least looking at new things, and part of it's also because of the podcast, and we want to talk about new things. So I at least feel I should go and explore it. But there's no compelling reason for me to want to go look at that.
No, and we have webmail here, so we actually have an online look and feel to it. So I would go to that's the only time I use my Outlook, because I actually use a couple different email addresses, and I compartmentalize things a bit more. So that's probably why I have 7 different passwords at a different time, and so I'm not as concerned about hacking because I keep it a little bit separate. So, and I don't check my work email a lot when I'm at home.
My work email goes to my phone, and if it's from someone, if it's just a VP type person or an emergency type thing, I'll respond to it via webmail. But I don't just go and log in to webmail when I'm at home. But yeah, they're trying. This is their idea of I guess their competitor to Gmail, maybe.
Well, they want to have more open, because you're going to see, with Windows 7 and the tablet and the new Windows operating system, you're going to see more Google-like things, so the Open Office as well, which might be nice people who want to have their spreadsheets that are exactly matching and Word docs. So you're going to see more of that transition, which will be interesting.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
All right, I think that's it for this week.
Before we wrap up, we're going to probably be back in 2 weeks again, as per normal. And yeah, that sounds good.
I do have an announcement.
Oh, you do have an announcement. That's right.
Yes. So NACA, who's a partner of ours, that's how their logo's on the bottom of the webpage down there. They're doing NAC on the Air. It's going to be August 22nd, and it's going to be their kind of inaugural radio show. So the board chair, David DeAngelis, I believe is his name. I'm sorry if that's wrong. And other guests will be there to broadcast for an hour, and they're going to discuss various higher education and programming topics. So it's kind of cool that NAC is branching out this way. So we have information in the show notes about this. It'll probably put a blog post on Bridging also, but you'll be able to listen live with the Suffolk.edu/radio. So it's going to be there. Again, that's August 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern. So that all of you in Canvas Activities will want to tune in to hear that. They're going to be using the Twitter hashtag. If you want to go ahead and start following the hashtag now, NACA Chat, NACA Chat, and you can find them there.
Cool, that's very exciting. Well, kudos to NACA, and I'll tweet that out right now.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks, and keep it reals. Happy start to school.